I made this river aquascape 30 days ago and it has completely transformed and exploded with tons of life. From hydra to trumpet snails and microorganisms taking over the sand bed, this tank has it all, including some tiny fish. So let's get right into this build. For the tank, I'm using a 5.5 gallon rimless aquarium. I started by cleaning off the glass, then I added leftover gravel and aqua soil from the previous layout to build up some height in the back left corner. After sloping the substrate, I forgot to add something crucial. These filter foam pads will protect the glass from the rocks I'm going to be using, and will also add a little bit more height to them. I'm going to be using river rock for this build. For the scape, I made it slope from the top left rock to the bottom right. I added some small rocks here and there to blend it together. Now that the hardscape is done, I was ready to glue it together. I glued the 4 main rocks, and that should be enough to hold it in place. After everything was glued together, I added aqua soil to cover up the old substrate. This nutrient dense layer is crucial if you want to grow aquarium plants in your fish tank. As you can see, the difference in height from the front to the back is a lot, but this will add tons of depth to the tank and make it appear bigger than it actually is. Now that the aqua soil and hardscape are in, it's time to add some plants. I'm going to be using plants from my grow bin. I decided to go with Rotala rotundifolia, Rotala atra, some Ludwigia needleleaf, microswords, and tons of cryptparva. Before planting, I misted the tank down to keep the plants from drying out. I started by planting Rotala rotundifolia in the back left corner, and I planted a few more so they can grow into a nice bush. Next, I moved on to plant some cryptparva and some Rotala atra. I planted some Ludwigia needleleaf in between the rocks, and now I'm adding cryptwindetti brown, and I added some cryptparva for the finishing touches. Now that the planting is done, I'm going to move it back to the shelf to finish the build. For the substrate in the front, I'm going to be using a very thin layer of sand. This will actually make the tank appear way bigger than it actually is. I added a few more plants in front of the rocks, and it was time to add the finishing details. I'm going to be using 3 different sizes of pebbles to make it look a bit more natural instead of just having a bare sand bed. Those small details really help bring the scape together. And now that all the hard work is done, it is finally time to fill up the tank with water and let it cycle. It has been exactly 1 month since I set up this tank and the plants have been growing in nicely. I haven't had any issues with algae yet, just some diatoms in the glass, but that's about it. I also did notice a ton of detritus on the sand bed and I was confused because I haven't added any livestock yet. That was until I took a closer look and noticed tons of seed shrimp living on the sand bed. Now these guys are completely harmless and are actually beneficial to the fish tank. They will also be a great food source for the small fish that I'm planning on adding. Around this time, I added a few trumpet snails to pull some of that detritus into the sand bed. I also found some hydra living on this rock. For those who don't know, these are basically a freshwater anemone, and in some cases can harm your fish, but I'm not too worried because I haven't seen them since I recorded this clip. The tank is cycled and I added a small group of exclamation point rasboras. These guys are incredibly tiny and have tons of personality for their size. I always see them hunting down tiny pods and seed shrimp. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.